Welcome back, everyone. New School Sensei. I'm your host, Lance Douglas. So we've got Ken Douglas in the house, and back again, Jeremy Maitland from the Bamboo Dojo. Ooh-wee. So always good to see you. You've just had a very successful quintet tournament you've run here in Victoria, Melbourne at Resilience. So we wanted to bring you in because quintet's very topical at the moment. Obviously, with CGI2, so that's the format for the competition. So quickly, just run us through a recap from your last event, and then we'll get into the nuts and bolts of like how do you win a quintet?
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, so we Sunday the 25th of May, we ran a quintet. So this is my fifth one that I've ran, and three where we've actually reached out to kind of the public or a few local gyms. And I think I found the balance on the teams because we run it as like a round robin. So we got three brackets of four teams, and the winners of those brackets move on to a semi-final. And the benefits of what I do is because there's three brackets, there's a fourth spot. The next person to get that fourth spot is the team that didn't win in the brackets with the most submissions of the round robin. So it encourages activity, encourages submissions, and really, really cool this time. This is the first time it happened. We actually had two teams with the same amount of submissions. So we ended up with a super fight to decide who gets that fourth spot. And it was between Renzo, Kong, the beast, and against one of my up and coming guys from Resilience, Ilias, who is another freak talent. And they had an awesome fight. And it came down to a ref's decision. And one cool thing that I did was I was not in the decision making. I asked all the coaches from the other teams to make a decision. It was pretty clear cut because Renzo was constantly attacking, and even though Ilias was super impressive, he was on the defensive. So the person that was going after the submission won, and then we had the elimination tournament. So we had the semis, and that was really, really cool. And then we had the first ever women's quintet match in Australia. So Australia, I'll be very specific. That has happened overseas, but our first one. So I just wanted to create an opportunity because I said, like, I'm obviously just training a long time. Women struggle to get matches in Australia. It's that I just say it's just no one's fault in particular. It's just there's just not a lot of growth and getting people to compete and stuff. It's hard. So we had two teams mixed from different gyms, and they put on an absolute killer show to break up the finals, and then we had the finals and surprising underdogs, which super impressive the entire day was Elevate out of Bandura, and they beat some powerhouses, which all the credit to Cover and to Theo Vamos, and these guys were just absolutely leveled up, and it was a spectacular show. And we award guys for like the fight of the day, and we have two fighters of the day, so one for each mat. And we usually reserve that for the most impressive performances. And like Renzo, he's got it 2 years in a row. And like I even said during the speech for it, I'm like, dude, I don't want to award the same person, but it's like, man, like this kid is that good. And he's in a year, he went from impressive to like even more impressive, and he's slowly turning into a man, which is terrifying because yeah, I don't want to fight him. He's just unbelievable, and I also gave it to another guy. I can't pronounce his surname, but his name's Jose out of Science of Jiu-Jitsu. Who was this older guy that just was super impressive, all heart, and I think he eliminated three people in a row, like in one of the things, and I'm like, and really the whole purpose of the event for me is like local heroes. Like I like treating my quintet like the local basketball courts. You know what I mean? You got the legend of the local legend and stuff like that. And I sell it and as cheesy as it may sound, like tell your story. Like there are so many stories that come out of like these local events, which I think the way society is now, and especially in BJJ, so it's so prevalent, we forget about the local heroes. We forget about the local legends, and like everybody's trying to aim for the top. And that's a great goal to have, but I think you got to remember, like I mean, I've been doing this for 18 years. Like, I remember the local stories. I don't remember tournaments unless there was something, something magical that happened at those tournaments. They were all part of my journey, and I love it. But like, it was more about the story, telling the story, and that's what the quintet, I feel, is super about. So yeah, recap. And we had some superstars in there. We had Ricky Beechin jumping in, the current interim, heavyweight champ. We had I can't pronounce his surname, but Maeda out of 10th Planet, who's a 2-weight class fusion champion. We had Chloe from AET, brown belt. She's Pan Pac champ, so she's a legend. Like, we had all these, like a Khan out of XFC, who's a multi-sport champion. He's a MMA, and it's just great. Like I said, we had some superstars actually get in there and like be part of the event. So, and it's really really cool. And yeah, so yeah, that was kind of the recap. And as I said, we can talk about the format of Quintet, but I run mine in the brackets as a 3-minute round, as opposed to like a 5-minute round, very quick. And we also mix belts. You got to have limitation on belts. You can only have one brown black belt on your team. You've got to have, you can have 2 blue belts or a blue and a purple belt, and you've got to have 2 white belts on your team. And as far as weight, because Quintet is very strict on its restrictions, mine's a little bit different. The captain is an open weight, so that can be whatever. And then you have to have 2 people over 80, 2 people under 80. So it just mixes, and it's like a real rant. It's it's like a raffle, right? You don't know. It's a real wild, because you can get a white belt fighting a brown or black belt. You can get a little guy versus a big guy, and the team orders are only revealed just before the fight. You put your team card orders, you give it to the ref is the only person that knows what the team orders will be just before the match. And it just creates these wild matchups, which it just makes it super entertaining. And it also disadvantages the 3 minutes disadvantages the high belt. So where, yes, you have a brown black belt, if you know that all you have to do is survive for 3 minutes with that brown or black belt, it turns it into a cat and mouse game, which, the fight of the day was Lucas out of Elevate versus Khan. And Khan was terrifying. He was the boogeyman of the day. He was like, he had 2 leg locks in a row. And this white belt, young kid, I think he was 16, 17 years old, surviving for 3 minutes. And it was just like the crowd was going insane. And it's like, he's just surviving. And Khan, to his credit, man, he's really like, was going after this kid with no malice. It was just like, and it was just this drama. And like I said, the story of it. And it was like, I had to turn around because I wasn't even reffing that mat. Everyone just kind of stopped and turned around. It was like, and the crowd was going nuts. You couldn't hear anything. It was, and when he survived all the onslaught, I said, and then you want to reward that, and then they got fight of the day. And I mean, that ended in a draw. But like, I feel like, that mix of belts protects, if you go all brown and black belts or high level guys, sometimes they've got to protect their ego, and then they play it safe, or they don't want to lose. It's that fight not to lose instead of winning, where you got white belts that are just getting in there and they're like, man, I'm just going to either I'm going to run or I'm going to go after this guy. And yeah, so it's just an incredible format that I personally love. And I might be a bit biased because I run the event, but I think it's the best style of competition if you want entertainment and you also want to encourage white belts, blue belts to just put themselves out there and like, hey man, I could just be fighting a white belt, or I could actually be fighting a black belt or a hex heavyweight champ. So yeah.
Sounds good, Jez. Do you want to just sort of tell us who are the top 4 teams?
Top 4 teams.
Yeah.
Yep. So we got to 10th Planet, South Melbourne. They won their bracket. Josh was a genius on the strategies, which we'll talk about later, which I'll bring him up again. They actually didn't have a high finish rate, but they just knew where to get the submission and ride out the rounds, and they ended up making the semi in their bracket, which is very clever because also in their bracket, they had Absolute and AET. So it was like, they beat some absolute powerhouse. They had Renegade in there as well, so it was very, very strategic on their part. Elevate won their bracket, obviously. And the other team that won their bracket was Brazilian Judo. So we had two res teams. So we had a BJJ team
Brazilian's
and a Judo
judo.
team. Yeah.
The judo guys won the bracket.
Yeah, they won the bracket.
That
I'll
was
say,
just like
look, I'll say judo
submission by
because they
throw.
do a judo class, but really, those guys, like I think three or four of them are BJJ guys. So we'll just call them that. But they did phenomenal. And then there was the tie for fourth place. So that was AET because they got 6 subs, and so did what's the other team? RTC BJJ, so Brazilians BJJ. So then they had that super fight, but we also Control as well. Out of I think Hoppers, they actually got the same amount of subs, but they had a few injuries, and they was like, look, we're probably not going to continue on in the brackets. Not injuries, just exhaustion, because the fights are pretty heavy. So yeah, it ended up being 10th Planet, Elevate, AET, and RTC Judo were the semi-finalists, and then we had the women's match. Yeah.
Sounds awesome. There you go.
Cool.
Very exciting. You can definitely tell the passion in your voice all
I
over
love
it. I know Lance is raring to go with some questions. What do you reckon, Lance? It'd be good to run through. Because obviously Quintet is very topical because it is the format for CGI. So run it through because we know now the Australasian team. So what's the strategy with the Australasian team? Like
Yeah.
let's go training, and then we'll talk about you got game day as well.
I think in these, what's cool about a quintet is your strategy is not necessarily to win your match. So one thing you have to take out of the equation right now is this is not individual. And in the past, you have, even in my experience, at the quintet events, unless you're Gordon Ryan, you don't, and actually Craig Jones, to be fair, back when he was still competing, you don't really have, it's not an individual team. It's not an individual sport. So it's very important that we talk about the strategy. Sometimes you drawing with a person to eliminate someone is actually a really good strategy. I think the person who gets the first sub has a distinct advantage because from that point on, you can stall out or run the matches and you win automatically just by process of elimination. So those that don't know what a quintet is, you have 5 teams, and basically if you sub the person, you fight the next person. If it's a draw, you both get eliminated. And it's a process of elimination. So one person, you might not even fight. If you get someone that's really good, they sub all 5 people, you might have a nice break and you just move on to the next round, right? So it's very important as a strategy. You have to. One thing I like about my thing is that you put the cards right before. So if you put a losing strategy, it's like, okay, cool, we need to change it. So I have 2 kinds of people that I think that are very important keys. Oh, I should say, yeah. So you have the boogeyman, or the person that is like just the finisher, the aggressive attacker that has a high percentage finish rate. And then you have the enforcer. So like there's an enforcer role. So the enforcer role sometimes is just the person to basically go in there, enforce, basically eliminate that person through like self-sacrifice, if that makes sense. So sometimes you have to be very clever in your team order. So yeah, I have that 2 style of person that you have, and usually you want to balance it out. You want at least 2 attackers, so 2 boogeymen, or so to speak, if you can, especially with this quintet where everyone's very high level. You need that person with a high percentage finish rate. It's very important. I think leg entanglements are super prevalent for that in this kind of game. Now, I tried looking up, I don't know if you guys found it. Do you know how long the rounds go for in the CJI quintet? I was trying to research. I couldn't actually find the length of the match.
5 or 6 minutes.
Yeah, so about 5-6 minutes. So, I mean, for black belts, in particular, and brown belts, they're used to like 8-10 minute matches, right? So it's a bit longer, and just that 5-6 minutes. strategically, you've got to be careful that that's a long period of time to just be straight stalling. And I think that they have like a penalty system or they've got a point system for attacks and stuff like that. Kind of like a catch in 1FC where they'll yell catch because it was like a close submission attempt to help with the scoring. But, I think what you need to have is, I always find that if you go too top heavy straight away, sometimes you have to out of desperation to get um, that little bit of a head start in as far as how the brackets go. So if we were looking at, um, I was just looking at, I've got the brackets here. Just
Yeah,
have a
so
look.
Jez, so
Yeah.
if we break it down, so if you look at the the
Yep.
Australasian team, Fabricio Andre at 66,
Yep.
and then you got Levi Jones at 77. I'm just writing these down too.
Yep.
Lucas Cannard at 88,
Yeah. Declan Moody at
Declan
99.
Moody, and then you got
Bilal
Bilal.
plus
So if
99.
you're talking about if you look at our team, okay, so the boogeyman would probably be, who do you reckon the boogeyman is? Bilal? That's what everyone's saying, yeah?
See, I'll call Bilal like more of a dark horse because there isn't a lot of information of him out there. But I feel like the way Lucas Kennard in the last one
That's
was a bit
actually true, yeah.
underestimated. These guys are I think the Australian team is very leg lock heavy, and I think Australian leg locks are the highest level in the world at the moment. I think, not
Respect.
taking anything away from New Wave or B Team, but they've turned more into a wrestle art top sort of. I would say New Wave is very wrestle art passing and like very top pressure, very Joseph Chen, like very like tripod passing and that very high mount game and back attack, which is it's great, you know what I mean? But obviously the leg locks are there. I think the Australian leg lock game is phenomenal. I mean, all the credit to Colby at the moment. He's creating some great leg lockers in AET. Obviously, Absolute. A lot of great leg lockers coming out of there with Lockie, obviously with his run at ADCC a few years ago. And there's been a love and a growth for it in Australia. And I just think, and Levi, man, everyone in the Australian team is very, very good at leg locks. I don't know much about Fabricio, the wild card. I haven't watched much of his stuff, but I definitely know the Lucas is definitely going to be very leg lock heavy. I know Bilal is all leg locks from basically his whole game. I'd say probably the more well-rounded guys, probably Declan and Levi. I would say, okay, so sorry, if we're saying that kind of boogeyman style, I would say, I would argue that Lucas definitely is very dangerous on the legs. I would say Bilal is obviously, yeah, I think it's great that he's an unknown factor. There isn't a lot of information and not a lot of study on him out there. So, and he's a big boy. He doesn't look it. I think when I was watching the CJI, like on the cameras, he just looks kind of lanky. But then I've seen photos. He's enormous. And he's a weapon. I think Levi and Declan kind of plays both roles. Declan's unbelievable. I can't believe it. Like Declan, I've seen him back in the day, like GDA days, where he was skinny, like he was just this kind of lanky kind of guy, and now he's just this big monster. He's very well rounded. So he can play both the enforcer and the boogeyman, and I think Levi is more of the as great, because it's going to be Lachlan's very smart. It's going to be very strategic in his team placements, but like I think Levi can be very good at like resisting a submission. He doesn't get finished very often. Um, I think it falls into that kind of category. So I would say the wild card is a great pick. I would say yeah. So as far as the Australians, I would say Lucas and Bilal are definitely going to be more the attackers. Declan kind of can fall into that role too because he's very, very good. He's very well rounded. I think Levi is obviously very well rounded, but his game is more like kind of suited to like playing the long game. So he might be able to play the entanglements, and don't get me wrong, he has that ability to finish, but I think that's the way to go. How I'd approach it is depending on the team that I'm fighting. Yeah, that's
So
very.
Jez, so if we play a bit of a game, let's
Yeah.
just say Dima's injured, or actually no, let's just say that he can't make it, like
Maybe he's been
Who's
held up.
injured?
He can't get a visa. Dima. So let's just
Yeah.
say I'm the coach of B team.
Yep.
So we know B team. We've got at 66,
Mm-hmm.
Ethan
Yep.
Crolliston, I believe. 77, you've got Joe Chen, or is
Yep.
it Wojak? It's yeah, I guess
Yeah.
I think it's either Joe Chen and then
77.
So it's
Yeah.
Ethan. It's Ethan, Joseph Chen,
Joseph Chen,
Chris,
the Wojak guy,
yeah, Wojcik, and then Nicky Rod and Victor
99.
Hugo.
Yeah. So let's just say I'm Dima, and we're meeting first round. It's me versus Big Jez, the captain of the Australasian team. I'm putting out Victor Hugo, round 1. So who's your pick?
Victor Hugo. I would definitely go Lucas again, just because of the mind games. Honestly, from the previous thing,
Snap.
I think there's definitely a thing of there's definitely an aura of I don't want to get caught again. So if that's the case, I would play to the card because Victor Hugo is amazing. I put Victor Hugo at the moment in the top 3 bracket only because I think that top 3 outside of, take Gordon out of the equation. The next 3 guys are all very close. I think you have to play mind games with someone like that. And Victor Hugo is very, very good at the long game. And I would play on his fear a little bit of getting caught and hope that that he would play to I don't want to lose, which again doesn't work well in a quintet setting because you eliminate yourself. So I would go Lucas.
So let's just say that match is a draw.
Yep.
So we go straight just for time. Let's go round 2. So
Yep.
now it's a draw, and I'm saying, okay, I'm chucking in Joe Chen. He's a gun. Let's just see what's happening.
Mm-hmm. So Joe Chen.
How about your move? Yep.
My move with
As
Joe
the coach.
Chen.
Yep.
My next person would be Declan Moody from that. So
probably another draw.
It could be a draw.
Train together.
But what it could be is that there is a size factor. There is a size factor, and Declan, as he showed at CJI, I found his progression in his using his size to his advantage from ADCC to then. And obviously, the Australian is not. You could argue it's not at that kind of local level. It's not as impressive as ADCC, but I think he's just the way he's moving at the moment and his aggression. I think what you kind of have to do with Joseph, because he's so good. I mean, Joseph's one of my favorite people to watch, but very much how Hulk kind of fought him and got him eventually in the leg lock is you can't take a back step on Joseph because he's so forward pressure, and you need to have that. I think that size will play a factor. I think Declan will either draw or, pardon me,
might even win, to be honest.
Yeah, win. I reckon he could. I think the size is a factor. I really do.
Right, so we'll move straight into round 3. So Declan's won that.
Okay.
So the Australasian team's got 1 point. Round 3, I'm going Nicky Rod. I want to get a tap.
Yeah.
So now we got Nicky Rod versus Declan, and I reckon, looking at the B Team YouTube channel, Nicky Rod's probably going to tap him. He's going to take his back. Declan's going to be wrecked. So let's just say that's a point to the B Team.
Yeah, for argument's sake, we'll say, I think, Nicky Rod's the better guy in regards to that. That's good. So it's a draw.
So now round 4. Okay, so you've got, we both have only 2 fighters left. We've got 3 fighters. 66.
No, we've got 3 fighters left.
Oh, actually, true.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Don't worry. I'm playing this game. Don't worry.
So we got Nicky Rod's in. Okay, so we're in round 4. Who are you sending out?
Levi.
Oh, what a match! What a super fight.
Now, Levi's role will be to be the enforcer, not to hunt. I would just be tangling the absolute living hell out of Nicky Rod. I would just be entangle. You need to eliminate him, and I think. I look, I think Levi's guard is near impossible to pass, no matter how big you are, and he's quite tall. He's got quite a lanky frame. So, and obviously he's
Levi's injured. Got a back injury.
Is he out?
Oh no, he's not out. But I was talking to some guys at Absolute, just on the hush between us 3 lads.
Yeah, just between us and everyone else on the podcast.
So why don't we send him out for Nicky Rod?
Yeah. 100%. Because I think that the Levi is more defensively sound than either Fabricio or Bilal. I think the defensive nature is going to be really good. So I feel like Levi in that sense, because, and this is what I was talking about before, sometimes you just need to take out the boogeyman of the division. Sometimes you just need to be the sacrifice. It's very important. And I think in that moment, and when I say sacrifice, you're not losing, you're not trying to get tapped out, but I just think Nicky does really good against big guys because their guards aren't as strong as Levi's. It's just the reality. It's physics, right? I mean, Victor Hugo is very good, but I would argue that in this setting, in this type of rule set, I think Levi can at least draw the double elimination. So that's
I
my
agree, 100%.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree. Okay, so we're in round 5. So they're both out.
Yeah.
All right.
So we've got 2 people left each. Yeah.
Yep. So you've got your 99 and your 66. I've got my 66 and 88.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put in, man. It's not looking good for me, man. I've only got Cresselton
Yeah.
and the Wojlock guy. So
Yeah.
2 relatively smaller guys.
Mm.
I'm gonna go the Wojlock guy round 5. Let's go.
Yeah, I would go.
Who's Wojak?
I'll go Bilal.
Oh no.
Yeah, so Bilal, I would go heavy. I will go, super heavy. Because okay, so this is my argument with that. If I went the way of Fabricio, there is a size difference between that kind of match, right? So I would be definitely Bilal. Bilal's big. And the great thing about that is Bilal has a real chance at either finishing a leg lock or I think finishing, because Declan couldn't put him away. And Declan was 99 plus. Oh, sorry. Was he no, sorry. Declan was 99. So even then, well, I guess Bilal, I keep forgetting how big Bilal is, but that's my
I think
point.
they're both the same. I think they're both the same 99. Yeah.
Yeah. So I personally think that I think Bilal is better in that setting. And again, it comes down to coach suggestion of like, look, if you feel like you've got this sub opportunity, by all means go for it. But if you're going for the win, I would be like, okay, use that as your advantage to stall it out. You know what I mean? That's my, yeah.
All right. I actually agree as well. I think I think the Australian team will get the win there. So Bilal's in round 6. I've got to send in Heath Cresselton. And
So
I think you guys get it. And I think you guys get another win.
Yeah, that's how I would approach it. But of course, like it also depends on what your opponent's doing. And I don't know, in this setting, do they get to pick the people as the match goes, or do they have to set up the brackets?
They pre-select the first person and then they can make changes on the fly.
Yeah.
But I think in their case, because in this situation, I was leading it, so you were countering me each time, but I think it'd probably be completely blind, yeah?
Yeah.
Like you just walk up, so it's a lot harder. But in this situation, the Australasian team had 3 subs, so 3 points. I only had the 1 point, so Big Jez wins. Hey,
Yes, take that, Lockie.
I reckon,
buddy, get out. I'll run this shit,
dude. At the very least, if Lockie's serious about getting that milli for his team,
yeah,
he needs to get Big Jez all the way from Resilience as the assistant coach. I'm starting the campaign. Big Jez is willing to pay his own way. Okay, the boys will help him out. We'll do a GoFundMe. I want Big Jez, assistant coach.
Yeah.
Okay, assistant coach to Lachlan Giles. You got Big Jez. He's seen the most quintets in this side of the earth, in my opinion. No one's seen more quintets than Big Jez. We need this guy in our team as assistant coach. So if Lachlan Giles, you probably don't listen to this podcast, but I know some of your students do. Let's get Big Jez in, mate. If you really want that $1 million, and he's willing to pay his own way, ain't that right, Big Jez? More than happy.
Yeah, sure.
We'll sort something out. We'll get a GoFundMe for him.
I think what you have to do, and the great thing about it is it's so unknown in the BJJ community. As far as like a strategy, it's just it's like you've done 100-meter sprinting your whole life, and then all of a sudden we're doing a 10K marathon. Like they're both the same actions, right? But you've obviously got to run them very, very different. There's different strategies, pace. You got to eliminate. I want to shout out to Josh from 10th Planet South Melbourne, because they made it to the semis with the lowest finish rate, if that makes sense. I think on the actual record, I think they ended up having 2 or 3 submissions the entire time in their brackets. And what it was, and they were ahead because they had won, and they beat some of the top teams just based on that strategy. And like I said, a low finish rate. Ideally, we want to encourage submissions, but it's like there's they like 3 submissions and you make it to the finals is very clever. It didn't make any sense. So what they would do is they would get that one win, and then eventually they eliminate everyone else through like not stalling, but like just controlling the pace because they've won. It's like, tell you guys, don't be a hero and like go for the kill. Like we've already won this. Do you know what I mean? So the strategy changes completely when it's a group setting. And that's what I'm saying. Individuals don't work. The last quintet, the one previously, we had, Jeff out of M9A. He had 14 submissions on the day. 14. That's insane, right?
I think the last time I rolled Jeff, he probably put about 14 submissions on me. That guy's a weapon.
He's an absolute scary weapon. He eliminated teams, but the big thing with that is like it didn't matter because once he was eliminated by Sacrificial, that enforcer, the team, it wasn't that they weren't strong. It was just heavily based on one player, and you can't approach that. I think one-on-one, if you wanted to make the comparison, I think Nicky Rod or Victor Hugo beat a lot of that whole squad one-on-one. But when you turn into a team setting and you are going out there to eliminate him or eliminate either of them, it immediately changes what's going on. Joseph is a freak, obviously, but again, I find because Joseph's very passing heavy, I think that's my kind of not. I didn't think Kit was made for CJI. He was made for that opening bracket because it was IFBJJ rules because in that the trials, see, his passing has forever been incredible. He's always had world-class passing. Very, very impressive. But unfortunately, in a CJI rule set where there are no points, where passing doesn't help you in any way, unless you're getting the finishes, and I wouldn't say Kit has a very high percentage finish rate. I would say he's very good at passing, controlling, racking up those points, and it's just great. And it's not that he's not aggressive. He doesn't stall it out. He doesn't get one advantage and hold. He's constantly attacking, but I just think the CGI setting didn't work well for Kit. Like, if that makes sense. I think the opening tournament was IFBJJ rules, correct? And I think it was scoring in that 16-man tournament. I think it was scored, right?
They didn't show the score on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
The refs keeping score.
Yeah, so I believe that it was a scoring system, and I think he was made perfectly for it. Kid's he's almost 40, came in there, and pretty much in that opening bracket with that rule set, pretty much dominated everyone, right? It wasn't, like I said, as far as dangerous in finishing or submissions, but like his wrestling, his takedowns, his composure was super impressive. But then obviously when you get into that final bracket, it comes down to who attacks more, and it's a different game altogether. Yeah? Cool.
That's it. Awesome. I think that's been an awesome wrap-up. So obviously the quintet that you've run, Jez, and then, the CGI, they got the quintet rules. So thanks so much, giving us the lowdown, helping us with a bit of strategy. So you
Lachlan
obviously
Giles, we need Big Jez, assistant coach. Let's go.
Get him in. Boom. So guys, if you enjoy that, shoot us a message. If you got any questions for Jez, shoot him some messages too. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Cool.